I think they also believe that the MAGA movement is largely populated by people of the same mindset. Now, I do believe that there is a concentration of those kind of people in our voting populace, and that there's a concentration of those kind of people in the MAGA movement writ large. But I don't think that defines every Alabama voter or even every MAGA Alabama person. I think people are waking up to realize that cruelty should not be the point.
Alrighty, welcome in. It is your favorite political podcast. It is Alabama Politics This Week with Josh Moon and
David Person.
How are you, David?
Man, I think I'm recovered from a weekend that started off in the 70s. And then by the very next day, it went from the 70s to the 30s and snow.
Yeah, you know I'm unhappy. You know I've been unhappy.
They got your hopes lifted up on Sunday and crushed you on Monday.
Yeah. So look, my experience was a little different.
Okay.
We had taken a little trip with the family and some other families, some of our good friends and their kids, and we had gone into the mountains around Gatlinburg, gone and taken a trip to Dollywood on the opening weekend, which we did really not realize until we'd already booked it. And so we went up and had ourselves a very, very nice time. And we had some storms coming through on Sunday night here. So we thought, well, you know what, we'll hang out one more day. We'll just hang out one more day and come back on Monday, and drove home in a blizzard. So it was went from literally one day we were out playing laser tag with the kids, and I was sweating like crazy. As I murdered some kids. I had some fun killing those kids. But I'm sweating like crazy out doing that. And then the next day we're rolling home in a blizzard. So it was interesting. And then it's been so cold. So cold.
Yeah.
But listen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but a better day is coming for you, because by Saturday, I think it's supposed to be 85 degrees.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I showed my wife that day that we were coming home, and I was like this, trying to see around see through the snowflakes coming at me on the interstate. I was like, it's the high today is 38 degrees. The high on Saturday is 83 degrees. I mean, you're basically, it's just throwing numbers out like a Powerball over here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's weather in North Alabama this time of year. It's very bipolar.
Yeah.
Very bipolar.
It's rough, and if it's rough on the sinuses, I gotta say, it's rough on. Yeah, can really get
Very
you. But
true.
All right, hey, before we get rolling here, we got to tell you about our friends over at Wind Creek Entertainment, and it's our pleasure to tell you about them, because they are great partners, and we really appreciate them and what they do, and how well they do it, and how much they do for our state and for all the people around here, and we really do appreciate them for sponsoring us and keeping this show kind of going. And it is they operate 3 fantastic resorts in this state, in Montgomery, Wetumpka, and Atmore. I highly recommend, as I have said many, many times, as we're now in spring break travel season and we're about to hit the summer travel season. Break up those trips. Break up the trips. Don't be stuck in that car with all those kids and everybody mad for extended hours when you could stop, spend a little bit of money, have a nice stay at a beautiful resort in either Wetumpka or in Atmore. Atmore, right along the interstate down there. As you're headed towards the beach, you could get up in the morning, head out, and you'd be at the condo by the time the cleaning crew gets finished and you're ready to check in. So look them up online at Wind Creek Entertainment. Go stay. You will not regret it. I guarantee.
Agreed.
I guarantee.
Yep.
All right. Hey, before we get to Pebbling Warren here in just a few minutes, we're going to open up and tell you, I guess the best place to start is with the Oscars, with our folks at that produced the Alabama Solution documentary. They did not win the ultimate prize that went to was it One Man versus Putin? Is that what was that what
You know, I didn't even check. Once I saw that they didn't
yeah.
win, I really, to be honest, didn't care who won. You know,
Yeah,
I
it
was just
was.
pulling
Yeah,
for them, man. You know.
yeah, I was too. I was too. We were watching. We watched a lot of the Oscars that night, and it was a weird show, man. I mean, it was okay show, but a weird show. And some of the writing was a little, a
You
little.
mean for
But
Conan O'Brien or for because
yeah,
I only
for
saw clips. I
not
didn't watch the show.
some of the skits. I thought Conan's, his intro and all that kind of thing was pretty good. But some of the other writing and some of the setups, there was a weird one with Sigourney Weaver and Baby Yoda that was a setup for the new Mandalorian movie that's coming out. But I mean, it was just kind of a weird, awkward sort of thing. But yeah. Look, it was good. It was a fantastic documentary, and it kind of gets us into what we were going to talk about here, and that's Steve Marshall. And I wrote a column about it this week, and about Steve Marshall's comments, and and it was one of those things that I heard it late in the week last week. I watched the little video of him strolling around a parking lot somewhere, talking about how the director was in his propaganda film, and he was not going to be intimidated by this guy who went on Jimmy Fallon, fourth place Jimmy Fallon, and and did these intimidation tactics, which amounted to this guy very kindly, and
Yeah, the director.
I mean, very kindly inviting him and Kay Ivey to see the movie and have a discussion about the prisons. Which I don't understand how anyone would ever take that. And of course, no one did. This is all performative bullshit from Steve Marshall, which is what he's known for, which is why nobody likes him. Honestly, I mean, even people in the Republican Party know that he's putting on an act with this stuff where he tries to be this tough guy, AG, where he's not that guy. And I don't understand why in his life he chose to be this character instead of just being this guy who said, this stuff is not right. What's going on here? Well, listen, we have people that need to be punished, but this is not right, and we need to take care of this.
Well, I think the reason is because people don't respect Steve Marshall, in my opinion, does not respect the Alabama voter and the Alabama populace. They assume that they are, still that many Alabama voters are still sort of in the George Wallace mindset, and that they really, and that the cruelty that Wallace represented back in the 50s and the 60s and the Bull Connors, they still think, I think that resides in the heart and the spirit of the voting populace here. And I think they also believe that the MAGA movement is largely populated by people of the same mindset. Now, I do believe that there is a concentration of those kind of people in our voting populace, and that there's a concentration of those kind of people in the MAGA movement writ large. But I don't think that defines every Alabama voter or even every MAGA Alabama person. I think people are waking up to realize that cruelty should not be the point. And by the way, before I go any further, let me give a big shout out to our friend, Beth Shelburne, who was one of the producers of the Alabama Solution. And we are very proud of Beth, as well as the rest of the team, for creating this great documentary. We're proud and excited about the impact that it's having and the fact that they got nominated for an Oscar. And it is literally helping to change the conversation in this state. But now going back to you and your column, I have to say, I think your column that you just wrote, and that was just published earlier this week, is also a big part of the conversation changer, if you will, or the catalyst for a change in conversation, because you made a very salient, it's a simple but salient point in your column. If I could distill your column down to this, I would say that your column basically says crime is still crime even behind prison walls. And that's something that Steve Marshall has apparently either forgotten or doesn't care about. For some reason, they seem to think that the killings, the rapes, the assaults, the drug trafficking, and whatever else is going on behind, black market stuff that's going on behind prison walls in Alabama is okay because it's behind prison walls, and whatever befalls the people in prison, because they're prisoners, for some reason, it makes them not real victims of crime.
Yeah.
And what you pointed out in your column, Josh, and God bless you for doing it, brother, is that, in fact, it is still a crime. And he should be just as concerned. But the fact that he's not is an indictment of him as an attorney general, and I'm going to say just as an elected official, period. It's an indictment of him.
Yeah, and as a human being,
yes.
And thank you for the kind words. But it's one of those things. I listened to him say these things, and him talk about not being intimidated. Him saying his counter to the documentary was, there's not one frame of that was devoted to the victims of the crimes, of the underlying crimes that landed these folks in prison. And, it took me some time to kind of work through what it was that bothered me so much about saying that. And it's essentially this, is if you say that, well, yeah, but do you know what these guys did to be put in here? Well, then you're saying to everybody that what's happening to them is okay because it's essentially a punishment that we're okay with because of what they did previously. All right. And so
can we just amend that to say what they may have done previously?
Right. Well,
because everybody that's convicted is not guilty. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. And look, here's the big thing, out of that for me is I've argued this about the death penalty here, about, when we have these conversations about it and just incarceration in general. And that is if we're going to hold this moral high ground that we claim to hold in order to execute someone, in order to incarcerate them and take away their rights and do these things, then we have to be at least better than them. Okay.
That's right.
We have to at least have a higher standard of life and expectations of ourselves and of the law than these folks do. And if you tell me that putting a guy in for, whatever, armed robbery, it's okay that he's beaten and stabbed and raped and sexually assaulted and his family is extorted because they may have a little bit of money, and those things are okay because of what he did to be put in there, then we're no better than those people. We're no better.
Right.
We're no better.
As
a matter of fact, we may be worse than a lot of them. Okay, we may be worse than a lot of them because we're taking on this position that these awful crimes are deserved in some way by these folks. Okay, and it's your duty as the state to, first of all, attempt to prevent it. Second of all, to investigate it once it happens. And third of all, to hold someone accountable for these crimes and to make sure that these things stop. That is all part of the duty, I believe, that we have. I mean, my God, we're talking about things that are happening in a lockdown facility that's under guard 24 hours a day. Okay. I mean, we really can't police that. That you're telling me that's impossible to police it to this degree? I understand that a fight may happen somewhere, and it take you some time to get there, or that something may go down, off in a back corner on occasion somewhere. All right, I get that, but you're telling me that we can't staff this appropriately enough. We can't have standards high enough. We can't do the things that are necessary to make these prisons where they're not the absolute hellholes they are. And you know that we can. And the way that you know that we can is all of these other states are doing it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Josh. There are other states where being in prison isn't like being in a living hell. And that really goes to, I think, the whole challenge that we have in our state of changing the culture of the prison, the incarceration system, the mass incarceration system. It's I think we treat it as though it's supposed to be a punitive place, and we treat it as though the people that are in there are less than human, and we don't consider the fact that if we took more of a restorative justice approach, where we were thinking about how do we help these men and women who are incarcerated to improve their lives? How do we help them to even become, I'm going to use a loaded word here, spiritually and psychologically, emotionally reconciled to whatever they did that may have been wrong? How do we help them to do that? How do we help them to be better, improve themselves as human beings? And there are other places that do that through various programs and so forth. And in fact, I want to say, Josh, that at least at one point in time, there were some efforts being made in the state of Alabama to do that, because I remember this was some years ago, this was over 20 years ago, but I remember being invited to Limestone County Correctional, where there was a conscious effort being made to help people get through drug programs. And I don't know if they're still doing that sort of thing at Limestone or other prisons around the state, but just, addressing some of these issues. We know many, probably most of the people that are behind bars in the state of Alabama are probably there due to drug-related offenses, which probably means that they are addicted.
Okay.
If not most, then many, and just dealing with that, along with helping, many of them are not highly educated people, may not even have GEDs or high school diplomas, helping them in basic ways that could help them and ultimately help society as a whole ought to be the focus.
No, yeah, there's no doubt about that. Now, we do have some drug programs, some rehab programs, some education programs in there. They are very, I've listened to a lot of the prison oversight meetings that have taken place over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. And, that was a big topic of discussion in some of those is the participation rates. And I remember one, and God knows I've had my differences with Larry Stutz over the course of the, number of years now. But Larry Stutz raised a question in there a couple of years ago about they said someone brought in statistics telling the folks there at the oversight committee that there were upwards of 60% of the people that were in prison were addicted to some substance or another, and the participation rate I want to say was 8% in the rehab programs.
Wow.
And he just said, well, that's not a very good participation rate. Which was, really, really obvious, it's not very good. If you're telling me that, the 60% are addicted and only 8% are in there, we got to figure that out. Now, I've talked to people in prison who say that the programs are not operated consistently, that they are often, that they don't perform very well. And I think that's a problem as well. And I also think that there for a long time, we took away the incentives for a lot of people to do these things because, the parole board was not paroling anyone. But you're right. We've got, if the goal is corrections, okay? The goal is correcting the behavior because it's right there in the name. All right. Otherwise, you need to name it the Alabama Department of Punitive Justice or whatever.
Exactly.
Because it's the Department of Corrections, and if we're not going to correct the behavior, then we need to stop funding the programs. But I would say that the far more beneficial thing for us as a society us as taxpayers is to fund these things and have a pathway for folks to get out of prison and to never return to prison. Give them some productive pathway to travel towards. And what we're doing right now is not it. Matter of fact, we're doing the opposite. We're sending in low-level criminals and making them into hardened criminals that commit worse crimes, that have become institutionalized and are ruined for the rest of their lives. And that's not what we should be doing.
And that's assuming they even survive the experience.
That's true. Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, hey, let's slide out. We're gonna come back with Representative Pedlin Warren, talk about some things happening in the legislature. We'll be back in a moment. It's Alabama Politics This Week, brought to you by Wind Creek Entertainment.